for a total of 736 days ago, I swapped my beloved wine for green juice. Actually, I swapped my beloved wine for life, and I am coming live to you today to share my sober curious journey. It has been an incredible journey that, like I said, officially started 736 days ago, which is amazing and crazy all in and of itself, because if you knew me 736 days ago, you know how much I absolutely freaking loved my wine. I had t-shirts that said it was like wine o'clock. I used to joke that Justin and Josh were my best friends, or no, not my best friends, my boyfriends, because those were my two favorite Sauvignon Blanc brands. I just lived for 5 o'clock, to be honest with you. And so it's kind of crazy that it has been already 2 years. Time flies when you're having fun, my friends. But the truth is that the real journey began a lot longer before that. I'm not going to start this story by sharing the generational alcohol abuse on my side of the family, or the alcohol abuse of anyone else in my immediate family, although both of those things had a deeply profound effect and an impact on my life and in my decision to go alcohol free. The real journey that I am here to share with you began when I decided to actually take a really good hard look at myself. And not just a good hard look at myself, but a good hard look at my relationship with alcohol, which is something that I had never, ever questioned before in my entire life. It's very normalized. It's very socialized. It's always omnipresent, and it always has been for as long as I have been alive. I want to preface this story by saying that every person's sober journey, and I use that word lightly because I know that the sober community has a lot of rules around their language and a lot of rules around what you can call sober and what you can't call sober and all these things. So I am here on my page to share my own personal, what I call my sober journey. This is my alcohol-free journey, and every single person's journey is unique. And I believe personally that it's no one's business to judge another person's journey based on their own set of beliefs or rules. And I also know that it can be, from experience, really frustrating and super confusing to explore this topic, to navigate your own sober curiosity with so many opinions and rules and pathways, etc. So I am here to say this is my page, this is my journey, and there's no room for judgment either which way. So if I say something that you don't agree with, that's 100% okay for you to disagree or for you to have a different belief or opinion about sobriety. Again, this is just me sharing my own personal journey. It began with a curiosity, and like I said, it began long before I actually made the decision 36 days ago. I had been sober curious for quite a long time. I had been asking myself what if for a very long time. I am a very spiritual person. I have a deep relationship with God. I'm in communication with God every day, all day long. And God had really been prompting my heart to give it up for a very long time. I was not ready. So what I did was I took several test runs with sobriety. By test runs, I mean I did health challenges that would require you to do certain things, including give up alcohol for a certain period of time. By curiosity or test runs, I would read Quit Lit, so lots of literature around sobriety. I would follow sober influencers on social media, and I would watch podcasts about sobriety, and I was really trying to just garner information to learn about alcohol as a topic, to learn about alcohol as a substance, and to discover for myself how it could even be possible for me to even give up something that has been such a normalized part of my life for so long. Like I said, I had just never really questioned my relationship with alcohol, and just part of who I am is that I do question the narrative. I call myself the rebel for a reason. I'm one of those people that I like to know the why before I comply. You can't just tell me to do something and I'm going to follow along with it. Like, I really need to understand something in order for me to make a decision to be sure that it's in alignment with like my own personal belief system. But I just didn't even have a personal belief system around alcohol whatsoever. It was just always normal with everyone around me, all my friends, my family, everyone, everywhere you go, and it was always omnipresent. So, and though I will say, given the family history that I have with generational alcohol abuse on my side of the family and alcohol abuse in my own immediate family, I was always just very hyper aware of everyone else's drinking habits and behaviors, especially when it impacted my physical or my emotional wellness or my perception of my safety. And so I was just something that I was always super hyper aware of. And I was also, if I'm being super honest with you, I was always like underneath the surface, kind of scared of becoming, quote unquote, an alcoholic, because I was surrounded by alcoholics. I was surrounded by alcohol abuse my entire life. Now, I didn't perceive it as alcohol abuse when I was growing up, and I didn't even realize that I was like alcohol abuse was part of my immediate family, because it was just always the way things were. And so this was a process of, number one, questioning my relationship with alcohol. Number two, discovering facts and information and education about alcohol that I had never even thought of or considered before. And then number three, it was like this unraveling of like this story that alcohol had, this story of belief that I had around alcohol itself. And so again, I really didn't question a lot until I personally, and this is super ironic, found myself actually over consuming alcohol to cope with someone else's alcohol abuse. The dysfunctional thinking, and something that I call stinking thinking. It had a profound effect on me emotionally, and it was something I was dealing with very heavily. And so because at that time I didn't really have any other tools in my tool belt to numb pain or to escape my feelings or to deal with dysfunction, that was the vice that I used to escape someone else's alcohol abuse and the impact it was having on my life. And I know it's freaking super ironic that I would be over consuming and abusing alcohol in response to somebody else's alcohol abuse and the impact that it had in my life. So, you know, the reason why I found myself questioning my that I was using it to drown out my anxiety. I was using it to drown out my grief. I was using it to push down my trauma and my sadness and the dysfunction that was happening around me. And so as these problems with alcohol continued to escalate in my life and in my immediate home and my immediate family, I was absolutely desperate to escape those problems, but here I was still drinking alcohol. Every night when I was cooking dinner, I would have my wine, and before I went to bed, you know, this was just a normal thing for me to do. And so, you know, I would rationalize it by saying things like, well, I'm not the one that has the problem. I'm not the one causing all of the disruption and dysfunction and all of these things. And so I felt like resentful in a way, like, why should I have to give up alcohol when I'm not the one with the problem, right? And so I will tell you the God's honest truth. What happened was one Friday Junior, which is what I called Thursdays back in the day. I'm being super transparent and honest with you, is that Friday Junior was a Thursday, and Thursdays, for whatever reason, I don't know, were tended to be the nights that I would drink heavier than normal. Again, my vice was wine. And, you know, I always tell people that, like, one of the things about alcohol was that I could rely on it. So like I knew exactly how I would feel after having one glass of wine. I knew exactly how I would feel after 2 glasses of wine. I knew exactly how I would feel after 3 glasses of wine, and I knew exactly how I would feel when I polished off that bottle of wine. And so, like, it was a conscious choice. It wasn't like I was out of control with alcohol. I was consciously over consuming alcohol for the purpose of feeling the way I wanted to feel. And so I woke up one Friday morning after Friday Junior with a freaking hangover, and hangovers were not like often, but they're normal. Everyone gets hangovers that drinks alcohol. Everyone does. And if you say you don't, you're lying. And we even have like hangover cures and concoctions, and we have the hair of the dog and all the things, right? But I did what any normal person would do when they wake up with a terrible hangover, and they swear off alcohol forever. How many times have you done that? Just be honest, right? Like, honestly, how many times have you woken up and you felt like shit and you have a freaking headache and your stomach is like turning and you're just like, oh my God, this sucks. I freaking feel like shit. I am never doing this to myself ever again. And then you do what any normal drinking person does, and you have a hair of the dog, which if you don't know what the hair of the dog is, it's literally like you would have a beer, or you would have some type of light alcohol, or you would have a mimosa, or you would have a Bloody Mary with breakfast, when in reality, you're just like, your body's literally poisoned with alcohol, and in order to stave off the side effects of being poisoned with alcohol, you have to drink a little bit more alcohol so that you can freaking forget how shitty you feel and numb yourself out enough to not be drunk, but to feel a little bit better. Okay, so that morning I woke up after Friday Junior, and I had a shitty hangover, and I was just absolutely freaking disgusted with myself. I was disgusted with alcohol more than anything, and I swore off alcohol forever. But this time, because, keep in mind that the problems in my home surrounding alcohol were like, they had reached a point of not being tolerable anymore. They had reached a point where it was causing so much dysfunction and so much disruption that there was going to be destruction somewhere, somehow. And so I was disgusted with myself. I was disgusted with alcohol. I was disgusted with the problems and the dysfunction. And this time I actually made a silent vow to myself to stay sober curious one day at a time. And now I will tell you that before I got sober from alcohol, anytime I heard like an Alcoholics Anonymous or anyone in the program say something like one day at a time, it would literally like make my freaking skin crawl. And I'm just being super, super honest. I was like, why would anyone want to live their life suffering, abstaining, wishing they were doing something else that they weren't doing, and like have to white knuckle their freaking life one day at a time? Like, to me, that was my perception of what that meant. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it is what it means. And again, my journey is not anyone else's journey. This is my own unique story, so I'm not judging or blaming or whatever. This is me being honest. And so I just made a silent vow to myself to be sober curious. I didn't say I was going to be sober forever, because that felt like a death sentence, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, there's so many aspects of our life that revolve around alcohol, especially mine, and especially where I live. Like, we live in a place, and maybe it's like this everywhere, I don't know, because to be honest with you, I don't even know what's normal. And that was part of the process of healing that I've been going through. But bring me back on track. Hang on. So I made a decision to stay curious. I would stay curious about sobriety one day at a time. And I thought that was a reasonable request of myself, and that was a reasonable commitment that I could make. And it didn't send me into fight or flight, or I have like oppositional defiance disorder with myself and everyone else. So like, do not freaking tell me what to do, or I'm going to do the opposite of it. And I did something even more powerful, in my opinion, a few things that really helped me, like, really hit this home and helped make it stick. And the reason I want to share this is it's so funny the way God works is because this is actually part of my healthy living revolution, and one of the core tenets that I teach and preach, one of the 5 pillars of health that I teach, is you have to nourish to flourish. And I already talked about intuitive eating and healing your relationship with food, and that led to me juicing. And I was already planning to go live about this today, but someone messaged me today and was like thanking me for being public about my sober journey and just really sharing that they were having a hard time and they really wanted to stay sober. And I just really hit home for me today that this is bigger than me, and this is why it's so important to share something like this publicly. And so what I did, and I shared with her in the private messages today, some of the things that I did that were super helpful. And I want to share them here publicly, just even if you're not on a sober journey or you're not even remotely curious about giving up alcohol. Maybe you're going to know somebody who is sober curious or who is in need of some solutions that can help them, especially early on in the early stages of giving up alcohol or any substance for that matter. Because what happens is that, number one, oppositional defiance disorder actually kicks in. If you think about it, anytime you've tried to go on a diet and you've told yourself you can't have carbs, the only freaking thing that your brain can think about is freaking having a pizza, right? Or having pasta or having carbs. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Anytime we make something forbidden, it's human nature to desire it on a scale that didn't exist before. So there's that. And then number 2, there's cravings, and cravings are real and they're not what most people think. And if you are curious about learning more about alcohol and the physiological effects in the body, beyond just it causes 7 types of cancer, sorry to break the news to you. I promise I'm not here to ruin your life. But cravings actually are something that is physiologically happening in your body, that it's so powerful for, especially for me, the kind of person I am, to understand. So I highly recommend, number 1, that you get the book, Alcohol Explained. You can go to the link in my bio and you can click on my Amazon link, and I have a library of books that I have read there that you can purchase, and that is one of the books. So it is Alcohol Explained, and there's a whole chapter that goes over cravings. And this isn't just alcohol. I mean, it does talk about the effects of alcohol on the body, but cravings are a real physiological thing that people experience from any substance. And so it is incredibly powerful to understand that. And I think even just for your own sake, it's important to know why we feel the way we feel. It's not just emotional. It's not just in your head. It's not just people who have a problem. This is a real thing that impacts our physiology and our brain chemistry, and it is something that we actually experience. And so to white knuckle something is just the dumbest fucking idea on the planet, excuse my French. It is far better to be equipped with the knowledge and the understanding of what's happening to you, or be around somebody who does, so that you can equip yourselves with the tools that will help you to actually have success with the thing that you are trying to not have in your life anymore. So the first thing I did was I educated myself, and I started reading some very powerful books, and that's the first one that I do recommend. That is foundational, educational, and it's easy to read. It is not like a big, heavy science book, so I recommend that. The second thing that I did was probably the most genius thing that I could have thought to do, and it's only just because it's, number 1, my personality, and number 2, like, it's just hardwired into my DNA to market everything. So I actually created a campaign for myself, and you are not allowed to steal this because it is my intellectual property, and I have an Instagram page that I will bring it back to life or whatever, or I'll integrate it into my new one. And I have a t-shirt. I got all the gear. And it actually, what I did was I created a campaign for myself that it was called My Mocktail Era. And I had to make it super fun, because if I was going to be sober, it had to be fun, or I was not about to suffer for the rest of my freaking life. Like, that is just, I am not about that. Everything must be fun for me, or I'm not freaking doing it. So I publicly launched this campaign called My Mocktail Era, and every night at 5 o'clock, cocktail hour, I would take a selfie of myself with a mocktail. So what I did was I swapped my daily wine for mocktails. I invested in all of the tonics and the juices and the seltzers and the herbs and the berries and all the ingredients, and I started creating mocktails every single day. It gave me this incredible distraction that was fun, and then something to actually sip on. Instead of my wine, I was now sipping on mocktails. So it started with mocktails, and it was an incredibly genius way to also have some built-in accountability, because if I'm talking about it publicly and I'm talking about my sober journey, and I literally posted like day 1 of going alcohol free, day 2 alcohol free, day 3, and I shared my thoughts and I shared my feelings, and I also shared about my cravings and the things that I was experiencing and how proud I was of myself. And I also shared something else that I'm just going to be super transparent about. So the reason I say alcohol free or sober from alcohol is because especially in the very beginning of my alcohol-free journey, I have always been a cannabis-friendly person. It does not have a stigma for me. I grew up in California. It's just a thing. But I've also never abused cannabis. So cannabis can be a substance that is abused just like any other substance, and I am not an advocate for that. But having the ability to, what I did was I found myself some very low dose cannabis seltzers. It was like 4 milligrams of THC and like whatever, a little bit of CBD, just to help take the edge off of that craving sensation that I was experiencing. And I'm not somebody that likes to be out of my mind anyways. Like I said, when I drank wine, I knew exactly how I was going to feel with 1 glass, 2 glasses, 3 glasses, 4 glasses. With cannabis, that was never the case. Like, it was a crapshoot. Like, you could take a puff off of a pen and you'd be fine, or you could take a puff off of a pen and you would feel like you were having a panic attack and need to go to the ER. Like, I wasn't about that life. So I was like, just looking for something that was natural. Harm reduction was the goal at that point. So I wasn't trying to replace one substance with another. It was like reducing the amount of harm to my body, to my lifestyle, to my family. And it was very, very low dose. And I still to this day occasionally consume those cannabis seltzers. But I am also very sensitive now that I've been alcohol free for just over 2 years, and my body is so freaking clean and healthy. Like, I have such a low tox lifestyle, and my diet is so freaking clean and healthy, and I have no toxins in my body. So I'm very, very highly sensitive, but I digress. So I did that in the very, very beginning. Now, I wish that I had one of the tools that I have in my hands now when I very first launched my Sober Curious journey. I got them a year after the fact. So I've been with an incredible wellness company that has a drug-free patch, or they're actually a combination of drug-free patches that are ingredient-free and drug-free. And there's 3 of these patches, well, 4 actually. One that can help with cravings, and I did recommend that to my girlfriend today. And it actually works, and it's incredibly amazing that I now have my hands on a tool that can help people through the stage of cravings. So it helps quiet the noise and calm the mind, and really helps you with those craving feelings. Then the other 3, one is for helping with stress and mood and all of those anxious feelings that inevitably do come up when you are dealing with now all of your emotions. You're just raw dogging life. Like, all of a sudden, like, you're just raw dogging life. Like, there's no escaping anything. And so that calming patch has been extraordinarily helpful. There's also one that helps to increase joy and optimism. And so I don't know if you know this, but when you consume alcohol, even casually on a daily basis, or even just like 3 to 4 times a week, 1 glass of wine or whatever, that's actually screwing up your dopamine receptors in your brain. And so I have a ton of education I can share with people about this. It also, your B vitamins, your body can't absorb B vitamins anymore, which is why your mood is like so freaking dependent on this substance, even if you are a casual drinker. And I didn't know that. And so I thought, well, what the heck, right? Why do I feel so good when I have my first glass of wine? It's because your dopamine is just freaking spiking through the fucking roof. And so now you don't have that, right? So now I have these tools in my hands, and the other one is is one for your mental clarity, and I call it my mental ninja patch. But it's very helpful because when you are detoxing from any substance, but particularly those substances that spike your dopamine receptors in your brain, and then you have these big crashes of emotions and things like that. You also experience brain fog, especially because now you are vitamin deficient, which I did not know, and supplements, you can't even absorb them. So like taking B vitamins and all that stuff does nothing for you. Your body literally cannot absorb them. And then your mood is all over the place, and you're having anxious feelings and all of this stuff. And then you're dealing with cravings on top of that. You're like, oh my God, what the heck am I supposed to do? So it's no wonder that people have a really hard time in these early stages. And then the next stage of my sobriety journey led me to this. And I very rarely purchase these anymore. And in fact, I'm like criticizing this drink because they didn't do it right. I have a juicer. And I juice every single day if I can control that. And so I started swapping out some of like, the fun, sugary seltzers and alcohol-free or alcohol alternatives with cold pressed juices. And in the beginning, it was really just because at this point I was like being more mindful of my health choices. I didn't want to consume a ton of sugar. I was really kind of just being mindful of, my health. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to explore this cold pressed juicing thing. And now cold pressed juicing is like one of the most impactful things that I've ever said yes to in my life. And I do it every single day. And it's now one of the core tenets that I teach as part of the healthy living revolution. But the reason why I initially started juicing was because I discovered through my research when I was learning about my dopamine and my serotonin receptors, and I was learning about my body's inability to actually absorb B vitamins, which are essential for your emotional and mental health. I was learning about the liver because I thought for certain that when I quit drinking alcohol, and I had everything else going for myself. I exercised every day. I ate very clean. I had a very low tox lifestyle. So I was like 100% convinced that when I gave up alcohol, that I was going to feel like a freaking rock star. Like I was going to have all this energy, and I was going to feel so amazing, and I was going to look so amazing, and my skin was going to be glowing. And none of that actually freaking happened. All that happened was I now felt worse, and I didn't have the tools to deal with the things I was experiencing. And I was like very confused about what to do and how to deal with it, right? And so I started doing research about my liver, because obviously when you consume alcohol, even casually, like I said, ladies, listen, wine, alcohol, in any capacity, it's not good for you. And so, what I learned is that there's only one organ in the body that actually can regenerate itself, and that's your liver. And the way that you regenerate your liver is by feeding it the raw nutrients that it needs to do so. And so I got my hands on this clinically proven juicing protocol to help regenerate your liver. And that's why you always see me juicing with beets. So beets are the cornerstone of this protocol, so to speak. And I did it myself. And at the end of this protocol, I felt freaking amazing. I was like, my skin was glowing and I felt vibrant. I had so much energy. The bloating was way down. I was just like experiencing what I thought I should have experienced when I quit drinking alcohol. So number one, I was regenerating my liver. Number two, I was helping my body absorb the right nutrients that it had been depleted of for a very long time. And number three, I was feeding my cells. This is living water. H3O, baby. It's the best thing that you could ever put in your body. So this is not a cup of sugar. Do not be afraid of juicing. And I actually created my own liver regeneration, juicing, and whole food nutrition guide. And you can get it at the link in my bio in my Stan store. And it is incredible. I poured my heart and my time and my energy and everything I had and all the knowledge and the wisdom that I gained from going through this journey myself into that guide. and it's very comprehensive, and there's a ton of recipes. And so if that's something that you are interested in, just comment juice and I'll send it to you, or you can just go to the link in my bio and you can find it yourself. If you don't have a juicer, I also have a link to my favorite juicer in my bio. And I would love to come alongside you on your juicing journey, on your healthy living revolution journey, and your sober journey. If you are curious about giving up alcohol and you are curious about what that might look like for you, you just need a sober friend, you just need someone to encourage you, or whatever, please get in my inbox. I would love to connect with you. I'm going to end with this by just saying, this journey has been one of the biggest gifts I've ever given myself. I didn't know what I would gain by giving up alcohol. And it's so much deeper than just my glowing skin and my vibrant energy and the way I feel in my body. It's really, what I gained was trust in myself. For the first time in a really long time, what I gained was an immense amount of dignity. What I gained was a really freaking honest, positive relationship with myself. What I gained was coping skills that are healthy, that will carry me through any challenge in life, and that are positive and add value to my life at the same time. What I gained was raw dog in freaking life. Like, there's never a moment where I'm like, ugh, I need alcohol to get through this. Or like, ugh, like, these people suck. Like, I can't stand to be around them. Like, ugh, like, this is so boring, and alcohol is the only thing that makes it fun. Like, I will never feel like I'm missing out on something. In fact, what I gained was, like, this amazing gift of freaking life. Like, and let me tell you, my spiritual life, through the roof after I decided to break up with alcohol. And if you have not ever looked into the name or the origins of the word alcohol, I highly recommend that you do if you are a spiritual person. And if you want to talk about Jesus turning water into wine, we can have that conversation too. But what I want to leave you with is that this has absolutely been one of the biggest blessings and the biggest gifts I've ever given myself in my entire life. It is 100% worth it. It's hard in the beginning, but if you are equipped with the right tools, like I now have, and the education and the community, and just the ability to see beyond the struggle, there is freedom. And so now what I have is, I don't abstain. I never miss it. I don't think about it. I'm around people drinking all the time. It doesn't even bother me. I don't judge them. I don't think anything about it, because it's not about them. It's about me. I'm free. I'm confident. I'm content. I'm happy. I'm sober, and it's freaking rad. And so I just love life even more. I love God and my connection with God even more. There's never a time where I feel separate from the spirit that's within me. And it's just freaking radical, and it's amazing. This is my rebellion. This is the healthy living revolution, and it's not heavy. It's very awesome, and I would love for you to be part of it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. I hope that this finds you well.